Hello everyone, I'm Javier Cifuentes-Faura from the University of Murcia in Spain. It is an honor to participate in this conference as a keynote speaker. Thank you very much to all the members of the organization for inviting me. We will talk about cross-cultural education and psychology with a lecture entitled Cross-Cultural Impacts of COVID-19 on Learning and Teaching Practices at the University Level. In this work also participated as co-authors of the article Deborah Obor, Lord Tu and Ishaq Al-Nabi. COVID-19 affected education system, leading to many changes for both teachers and students. Although higher education institutions' responses differed, the majority of institutions have opted for emergency remote teaching, using the available online platforms. Teachers had to adapt their classes to online modality and use new technologies, although few possessed the necessary skills in handling online teaching. Teachers in higher education had to adapt the curriculum and their instructional strategies. Teachers also had to modify the way in which final examinations were administered, with the aim of covering all the content taught and to prevent fraud when the test was taken remotely. Prior to the pandemic, universities committed to including sustainability in curriculum and sustainable teaching practices. The importance of transmitting the Sustainable Development Goals may have been put on the back burner during this pandemic, giving priority to keep education undisrupted. Students had to redistribute their time and study in a different way, and this new modality generated confusion for students. Given the situation caused by COVID-19 in education and the confusion that has arisen, it is important to analyze the changes that occur in the educational system and higher education institutions to understand how students have coped during the pandemic. This work attempts to understand the cross-cultural impact of COVID-19 on students in higher education in Spain, Nigeria, Oman, and Cambodia. The choice of these countries is due to the fact that it is an extreme comparison for very different countries from different regions. Comparing the impact of COVID-19 on these countries can inform and assist higher education institutions globally in responding to these crises and future emergencies. This study is guided by the following research question. What is the impact of COVID-19 on higher education students' well-being, classroom adaptation, perceived social support, emotions, self-efficacy, and job turnover in Nigeria, Spain, Oman, and Cambodia? And how was COVID-19's impact on higher education students' well-being, classroom adaptation, perceived social support, emotions, self-efficacy, and job turnover differed in the four countries? Many factors can contribute to students' learning and success in higher education, such as well-being, engagement, and belonging, motivation, and self-efficacy. Students' well-being is associated with learning achievement. Several researches have shed light on students' mental health and well-being during COVID-19 to propose some preventive measures and recommendations for higher education. COVID-19 influenced students' engagement in learning. Students' engagement deals with students' involvement in the learning process by meeting three psychological traits to achieve higher levels of motivations and performance: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Students' reduced engagement in online teaching and learning during COVID-19 result from the sudden and planned shift to online delivery, and from students taking multiple roles, such as assessing their peers and learning to cope in a new situation. In order to foster better students' engagement in the learning process during COVID-19, teachers teaching in online context should develop students' autonomy, ensure learning, and involve all students. Overall, research called for an urgent need for higher education institutions to draft policies and intervention to support students' well-being during emergencies, provide mechanisms for social support and emotional resilience, train and provide academic support staff, plan a preparedness plan for students' well-being with changes to curriculum and assessment. So in this work, a survey was used to find out how COVID-19 has affected students in higher education institutions. The survey consisted of two main sections, demographic information and 7 Likert scale sections. The demographic section included 11 items. The second part of the survey sought participants' attitudes towards teaching and learning during COVID-19. It included 50 items divided into 7 dimensions: classroom adaptation, engagement and belonging, perceived social support, well-being, job turnover, classroom emotions, and motivation as self-efficacy. The participants marked their responses to the main section on a 7-item Likert scale, ranging from strongly agree to strongly disagree, with one section marked on a 6-item Likert scale, ranging from at no time to all of the time. The reliability coefficient of the 7 dimensions ranged between 0.82 and 0.19, as measured by Cronfast alpha. The study used a cross-sectional survey design. The survey items were adapted from previous studies on students' classroom adaptation, from Schwarzeli et al., Engagement and Belonging, from Anderson, Batcher and Conway paper, Perceived Social Support, from Clement et al. Paper, Well-being, from Who Collaborating Center for Mental Health, Job Turnover, from these authors, Schobert and Sperk, Classroom Emotions and Motivation, from Tisworth et al., and Self-Efficacy, from Asher and Pajares in 2008. A total sample of 242 students responded to the survey from different higher education institutions from the 4 countries. Slightly higher responses were from Oman, in total 84 responses, the 34%, compared to the other countries, with Nigeria being last represented in the sample, with 24 respondents. Female students composed 63% of the sample, whereas male students composed 36%. The participants' age ranged from 18 years to 38 years and above. Almost half of the participants have been students in higher education for 3 to 4 years. Most of the participants were domestic students. The majority of the students in the sample, 201, studied fully online during COVID-19, and they had on-campus courses prior to COVID-19, compared to smaller numbers of students who partially studied on campus and who had no courses during COVID-19. With regard to employability, more than half of the sample did not have jobs during COVID-19. Simple descriptive statistics, frequencies, means, and standard deviations, and a one-way analysis of variance, ANOVA, were computed to analyze the data and compare the difference of students' attitudes between the 4 countries with regard to classroom adaptation, well-being, perceived social support, emotions, self-efficacy, and job turnout. This section presents the results, and it is divided into 7 parts based on the survey dimensions: classroom adaptation, engagement and belonging, perceived social support, well-being, job turnover, classroom emotions, and motivation and self-efficacy. The results revealed that students were able to adapt to their classes during COVID-19. with Omani students feeling slightly uncomfortable adapting to the new learning situation. A one-way analysis of variance indicated that there is no statistical difference between the four countries in terms of students being able to adapt to the new teaching and learning setting caused by COVID-19. In other words, students in the four countries were able to adapt to a good extent with the new teaching and learning scenarios. With respect to students' engagement and belonging to their programs during COVID-19, students felt slightly engaged and belonged to their programs. Using a one-way analysis of variance, there were no statistical differences in classroom adaptation between the four countries, Nigeria, Spain, Oman, and Cambodia. The results revealed that students slightly agreed to perceived social support statements. This indicated students somehow received underrating and security from others during COVID-19, and they could rely on others to help them when needed. A one-way analysis of variance, exploring the differences between the four countries, indicated a statistically significant difference at the P0.05 level with regard to perceived social support for the four countries. To identify the differences between the four countries, a post hoc multiple comparison revealed that the mean score for Oman was statistically different from Nigeria and Spain. Overall, Omani students received slightly lower social support during COVID-19 compared to Nigeria, Spain, and Cambodia, respectively. The descriptive statistic showed that students' well-being was negatively affected by COVID-19 across the four countries, with a slightly more negative impact in Oman and Cambodia. Across the four countries, the majority of students felt active, cheerful, relaxed, and in good spirits less than half of the time in their studies during the COVID-19. A one-way analysis of variance indicated no statistical significant difference at the P0.0 level between the four countries. In general, students' well-being was not very satisfactory in the four countries. Items in classroom emotions were divided into three subcategories: instructor support, positive emotion towards instructor and program, and energy required for the instructor and program. In general, students agreed that they received sufficient support from their instructors during COVID-19, median 4.22, standard deviation 1.38. In addition, students demonstrated positive emotions toward their programs and instructors, mean 4.97 and standard deviation 1.27. A one-way analysis of variance revealed no statistical differences between the countries with regard to instructor support. In addition, the test revealed no statistical differences in the means of items related to the positive emotions towards the instructor and the program. However, the test indicated statistical differences between the four countries regarding energy required for the instructor and the program. The results showed that students in Oman needed to exert more energy towards their programs and instructors. Students' self-efficacy during COVID-19 was slightly high with minor variation across the four countries, mean 5.23, standard deviation 1.10. The one-way analysis of variance for self-efficacy indicated no statistical differences between the four countries. Based on the descriptive analysis of items related to employability, COVID-19 had a minor impact on students' job turnover, having more than half of the students represented in the sample, 76% without jobs during COVID-19 explained this low impact. A one-way analysis of variance explored the difference in job turnover between the four countries. The results indicated a statistically significant difference at the p 0.05 level between the four countries. The post-hoc multiple comparison test revealed that Nigeria had more job turnover impact compared to Spain, Oman, and Cambodia. Now we are going to discuss the most important results and give some conclusions. This study found that students of the four countries from Nigeria, Spain, Oman, and Cambodia could adapt to the sudden change in the format of teaching and learning during COVID-19. Adaptability is characterized as the ability to constructively change one's cognition, affect, and actions because of individual differences in how one reacts to changing, unfamiliar, and uncertain conditions. Students of the four countries, even if many students felt less comfortable, could adapt to the changes from traditional to digital teaching and learning. Students show their commitment to retain their continuous learning in the adoption of digital resources for learning. However, the students felt less engaged and belonged to the programs during COVID-19. Student engagement is a three-dimensional framework that includes behavioral, affective, and cognitive components and serves as the foundation for students connected to learning. Students' engagement is an obstacle when universities move to online in response to COVID-19. Students experience physical isolation from the class because they could not have interaction in person. Students have no physical connection with their friends and teachers and may have lower levels of engagement. For example, the work of Kavanaugh et al. In 2004 indicated that remote instruction is as efficient as traditional classroom instruction. However, it raises questions about the long-term effects of remote-only instruction on students' growth. The results of this study somewhat contradicts with Kavanaugh et al. 2004 paper findings because the degree of engagement could not be comparable to that encountered in conventional classrooms. The absence of physical contact could lead students to experience loneliness and a sense of isolation. Social support is crucial to minimize mental and physical distress, and a lack of social support during the pandemic increased the risk of mental health problems. The study found that with a statistically significant difference, higher education students of the four countries received less social support during COVID-19. Students in Oman receive marginally less social support from peers, relatives, and their institutions. This can affect the level of engagement if it remains unsolved. For example, Brooks et al. Proposed that people maintain social connections during the COVID-19 to alleviate isolation, worry, and anxiety. Social support should be provided through training academic support staff and counselors to assist students. Schools and instructors should use a variety of teaching methods and resources such as video chats, social media, exercise, and hobbies. COVID-19 has negative influences on students' well-being. The results indicated that students in Cambodia and Oman had slightly more negative impact than students in Nigeria and Spain. During COVID-19, students have less time to be cheerful, in good spirits, well rested, relaxed, and calm. The pandemic causes the absence of physical classroom and physical contact with their companions for long periods. Regarding classroom emotion and motivation during the COVID-19 pandemic, students receive sufficient support from instructors, and they demonstrate positive emotion towards instructors and the programs. However, students from the four countries were required to put a lot of effort and energy to fulfill the requirements in the programs. Omani students required extra support. The students of the four countries showed a positive attitude toward the changing nature of learning during COVID-19. Positive academic emotion could encourage student engagement. Negative academic emotion can stifle it. Student persistence and efforts in learning can be boosted by positive academic emotion. COVID-19 also has much more effect on employment than other crises. The results reveal that COVID-19 influences students' employment in the four countries. Students in Nigeria had more job turnover than students in the other countries. Job loss could affect students' engagement in the programs as it also affects students' livelihoods and well-being. Regarding self-efficacy, students were very optimistic about the program during COVID-19. Students expressed their confidence in his or her ability to carry out the behaviors required to achieve results. The effectiveness of students during the pandemic indicates that there were small and major differences between the four countries. As a result, optimistic academic emotions will encourage students to become more involved in their studies. Negative academic emotion can thus have a negative impact on students' academic results, further obstructing student participation. So institutions should train teachers on how to address students' challenges during the crisis like COVID-19 or future crises, and how to deliver content online to maximize learning and students' engagement and belonging. For better students' engagement, institutions can also update the curriculum and reduce program requirements for online delivery. So this is the end of the presentation. Thank you so much for your attention. It has been an honor to participate in this conference. You can see my email address on the screen, so if you have any question, don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.